We're going to talk about love bombing and a book that was created, as well as narcissism and gaslighting. I want to talk about something that I came across recently. It's about love bombing. I have no idea what that was, and so I was kind of interested. There was a young lady called Stina Sanders, and she wrote a book. She's British. In her book, she talks about red flags when in relationships. The book is called Not the One, A Woman's Guide to Identifying Red Flags. I'm thinking to myself, this is not just for women. This is for men too, because I've had a relationship exactly how she describes what's going on. This is a book that'll teach women potentially how to look for red flags. Sometimes love is blind, and sometimes you can't see it when you're in it. Let's listen to what she has to say with a partial interview that I found.
Gaslighting is a manipulation tactic that abusers use to basically doubt yourself. So, for example, if you notice that your abuser, or you have evidence that your abuser has been lying to you, and you say, I've caught you lying, and they say, no, I didn't, I never said that, you're crazy, it's all in your head. That's gaslighting. It makes you doubt your sort of sense of reality.
So I was going to ask you, you've had relationships where you had gaslighting experience, so to say?
Yeah. No, so after I was engaged right out of high school, and
that early you experienced it?
No, the second relationship after high school.
Oh.
So I met somebody. I was moved back with my parents after I broke off my engagement. I was in my early 20s, and was living with my parents, and it was back in the days of Yahoo Messenger. And I got a message from someone random and said, hey, why are you on my friends list? And I'm like, I don't know you. And they're like, oh, well, I just think it's weird that you're there. So we start talking. He says he's a teacher, and he lives in Pennsylvania, and I was living in Ashtabula County at the time. And we went on some dates and we started dating, but there were things that didn't make sense to me, and things that I felt that I knew were true but couldn't prove. So like for instance, he wouldn't give me his home phone number. Like, this was when landlines were still a thing.
Yeah.
He would only give me his cell phone number, and when I asked why, he made some excuse for it or whatever, and I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. He doesn't have a landline or whatever. And which was, not really a common thing back then.
Yeah.
So, so I called the operator, which was a thing. God, this was early 2000s. Called the operator and asked for his name and the town that he told me he was from.
It's like the 1800s.
You're right. Oh my God. Yeah. So they gave me a number for him, and I called the number. And the phone picked up, and it sounded just like him. Hello? And I couldn't say anything. I was just listening, and I hung up. And then I called it again, and this time I hear a woman in the background go, why don't you just hang up the phone, unplug the phone? And we had been seeing each other for a while at that point. And so I hung up the phone, and I'm like, oh my God, I caught him. He's with someone right now. And so I text him, and I'm like, you need to call me right now. Call me right now. I need to know, where are you, whatever. So he texts me back, and he says, I'll come to you. So he comes, and he gets me, and I'm like, you have a landline. Like, I heard you, and I heard you with another woman. Mm-hmm. Oh, no. That wasn't me. That I don't know who that was. I'll drive you to my quote unquote apartment that I live at. Mm-hmm. So we drove to this apartment complex, and he points at a window and says, that's where I live. We didn't go inside. He didn't tell me.
You didn't say, okay, so let's go up. I want to see.
No, I was speechless. I was speechless. Well, here's the thing. I partly didn't want to know. I think subconsciously I really didn't want to know. But he did that so many times where, like, I knew he was going to cancel plans on me anytime it was a major holiday or anything, like something would come up or like, and then he would make me feel guilty for like for feeling bad, for being upset, like when he missed my birthday on New Year's Eve, like, but I found out after 2 years of being together that he was actually married. But he used gaslighting constantly on me, and he made me feel like I was crazy, that I shouldn't feel the way that I felt, that how dare I not believe him, he has proof. He has proof of all these things. Like, he got a voicemail from a female on his phone because I found out his password. Mm-hmm. Hey, where are you? What are you doing? Anyway, I just wanted to call. Love you. Bye. And I'm like, who the hell is that? And he's like, oh, well, it's a friend. We're just friends. And I'm like, really? Like, I don't believe you. Oh, yeah, we're just here. I'll prove it to you. He calls the number and he's like, hey, it's me. Oh, yeah, no, everything's fine. Hey, I'm going to call your phone. Would you just let it go to voicemail? Sure. He calls the voicemail and it's a male voice. Hey, this is so-and-so and so-and-so. We can't come to the phone right now. Leave a message. And he's like, see? She's married. I couldn't possibly be doing anything with her. You're crazy. And I'm like, well, yeah, I guess. And I started to write down everything because I literally felt like I was going insane. He made me feel insane. He made me feel that nothing that I thought or felt was true. Everything was just a misunderstanding.
I wouldn't necessarily say that you would call that being insane.
When
like
someone
you had concerns.
but when someone tells you that your reality is something other than what you think it is, it makes you feel crazy. It makes you feel like they're telling you, oh no, you shouldn't feel that way. You shouldn't think that. You're living, what you're experiencing isn't real. And that's gaslighting. That's gaslighting.
Yeah.
It's not a pleasant feeling. And that's why in most of my relationships, that's why I keep a diary and I keep an online journal of all of my interactions, because since that relationship, I've never been able to trust men and I have to keep a timetable of when things happen because people try to manipulate situations and like make things seem like they're different from what they are, and I need proof to be able to go back and say, no, that's not how it happened.
Well, I mean, I do that too, unfortunately, but it's almost like a waste of time and you're still living in the past.
No, it's not fun.
So it's not beneficial.
No, it's definitely not. But when you're in that kind of relationship and you're with someone that's gaslighting you, there's kind of no other way to live, other than to get out,
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to see, But I think one of the things that my therapist always tells me is to trust my gut. And when you're in a relationship where someone's gaslighting you, it's very difficult to do that. You constantly second guess how you feel. You second guess what you think. You replay things in your mind like, is that how it went? Is that really what I said? Is that really what they said? And that's why I continued to write everything down, because I didn't like people telling me that things were one way when I knew they weren't.
Right. Yeah, I kind of had a relationship like that, and it was years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's when I was dating a girl named Jenny.
Mm.
And she was engaged to be married to somebody.
Yeah.
And there was a couple times where she wanted to date me. And I'm like, why? Why would you even bring that up when you're engaged to be married to this guy?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking a lot of things in my head where, she just wanted to have a one-night stand, and I told her that I wasn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we kept on hanging out at the same spot because there was a video game store, and it was a main spot where where me and some of the guys hung out,
Right.
and she worked there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this relationship with me and her kept on going on, and she gave me. I didn't know what this meant at the time, but
Yeah.
she took off a tab of a pop can and she gave it to me.
I really
And
remember
back
that.
then,
Yeah.
it meant that this was a free pass to get fucked.
Oh. Yeah. Okay.
So, and it was called a fuck tab.
I never got that.
But of course, it's something totally different now. So.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I didn't know what the hell it was, and I'm like, "Why are you giving me this trash?"
Right,
That's
right.
what I
Why, thank you. I'll recycle this for you.
Right. And at the same time, this Indian guy was interested in dating her, even though she was engaged to be married.
Right. Well,
within a month.
Some guys have no shame.
And no, because she was she was exuding like she didn't want to be in this relationship, and she didn't want to get married to this guy, and this guy's an alcoholic, and there's all kinds of other stories, and he's cheated on me, and I'm not sure what to do. And it's like, well, if you love the guy, then or call off the marriage.
Right.
She wouldn't do any of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, eventually, she kind of convinced me that we should date, and
Did she tell you she broke off her relationship with the guy?
yeah, I
Well,
gave her an ultimatum. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to date you unless you break off
Sure, your
what you
engagement
had.
and everything. Yeah.
So she did.
Mm-hmm.
And we went out together, and I met her parents, and her parents were questionable because she just jumped out of a marriage. And she kept on saying, everything is fine, and all of a sudden, her, I don't know what you would call it, like her engaged husband or
Fiance.
boyfriend
Right,
or fiance,
Right.
whatever you want to call him,
Yeah.
he called.
Yeah.
And I can hear him
Sure.
on the phone.
Yeah.
And he goes, I want you back and everything else, and I love you. And she said, I love you too. Even though I was in the other room,
Yeah.
it was loud enough where I can hear
You could
it.
hear it. Yeah.
So, and then when she got off the phone, she totally lied. And
Yeah.
it's like,
What did she say?
she totally lied to me right in front of my face. And I know what I heard.
Right.
And it's not like it was garbled or fuzzy or anything. It was clear.
Right.
And I heard her clear as day that she said she loved him too.
So is that your definition? That's the definition of gaslighting, right? When someone makes you feel that the reality that you experienced is not true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So she told me that I didn't hear her right, and I didn't really say that.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I was right there.
I know. Yeah. That it's a really awful feeling to live in a reality where someone keeps telling you, "Oh, that's not how it happened. You didn't understand, or you didn't hear right, or you didn't, or that's not the way it was actually said." It makes you feel insane.
Right.
It's not a good feeling.
So what happens if two people have been burned like that get together and they don't believe each other?
I don't know.
So it gets to be a problem.
It does get to be a problem.
Where
It is-
both of the parties are writing things down.
No, and that's exactly right. I mean, yeah, you're not the only one that does that. I do it too because I've been told that my reality is not true, and the things that I've experienced are not true, and the way that I feel is not right. And so now I have to feel like I have to validate every experience I have by writing it down and making sure that I document everything, because I don't like being told that what I experienced is not true or not reality or not my reality or I shouldn't feel a certain way, so I write it all down because, and it is exhausting. And I will say though, I've stopped writing things down as much as I used to after learning about Buddhism and meditation and living in the moment and not dwelling on things. My favorite phrase, and I keep repeating it to myself, is that if you're depressed, you're living in the past. If you're anxious, you're living too much in the future. That you cannot experience life or be happy unless you live in the moment.
Yeah.
And so there's no, I would say in terms of gaslighting that no one can take away your experience of reality from yourself. And if someone tells you that you shouldn't feel a certain way or you shouldn't think a certain way, that is not their right to say that. Everybody has their own experiences. If you say you're uncomfortable or you say that you've been hurt, that is your reality. And a good partner accepts that and cares, rather than saying you shouldn't feel that way. Here's how you should feel, or something like that.
Yeah, nobody should tell you how you should feel at
No,
all.
No, not at all. Everybody has their own experience, and being a good person and being empathetic and trying to be understanding, even if you don't understand what they're going through, even if you've never been in those circumstances. But I would say that two people that have dealt with trauma, it is hard to be in a relationship. I've read books on sociopathy, on narcissism, because I tend to be attracted to people like that. People that lie, people that distort the truth, people that, gaslight, people that love bomb, all of those things.
Yeah, because it seems exciting at the time. If they lie or over exaggerate what they do.
Yeah, well, and if someone tells you that, and this is the hard part, right? This is the hard part, because in the beginning of a relationship, it feels very exciting, and the person seems perfect, and you share all these amazing things and stuff, and then reality sets in. So it's very difficult in the beginning to differentiate between a narcissist and love bombing and some of those tactics, those red flags, versus someone who's being genuine, And I will say that...
Well, that could ruin a relationship too if the guy is being truthful.
Right. No, it's incredibly difficult. For either partner, that if you've been abused or lied to or whatever, to be able to trust a new partner. And I can't say that I have trusted anyone I've been with since that relationship. It was extreme. And I will say it wasn't even just him. His whole family covered for him. We went on vacation with his family. We went to, I forget where we went, but it was like there was this lake and jet skiing and all this stuff.
It's like New York somewhere?
Somewhere in New York, and this island or whatever. And his family went there every year for summer vacation. And to me, it proved that all of my, what he told me was, see, you shouldn't feel insecure. You shouldn't feel all the things you're feeling, because look, I'm taking one vacation with my family, so you should be totally happy.
And I'd be like, well, so what took you so long?
That's what I said. I have that in my journal. What took you so long? Oh, he was just insecure, and he'd been burned by previous relationships, and and his wife was a bitch, and all this stuff, and all these things, right? And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for you, poor baby, that you went through all of that. What a horrible person. So we go on vacation with his entire family, and I'll never forget, I went on a jet ski ride with his cousin, his female cousin, and she was like, wanted to get to know me. I think she wanted to get me alone to pump me for information, because it was obviously very weird that he was bringing a girl on vacation with his family when he was still married. Now they were separated, but
Did you know he was married at that point?
No, I had no idea. So first of all, he told me his wife was dead when we first met. My wife died. And but that's actually a kind of easy thing to find out. Now, this was before I became a super sleuth. Researching all the men I date.
Yeah.
He made me become that, because I don't trust anyone anymore. So no, he told me his wife was dead. And of course, that brought out the empathy. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, how awful for you. So then after we actually started dating and he really liked me, then he realized he should come clean. So he's like, I have a confession to make. I'm like, oh, what's that? And he's like, my wife's not actually dead. My ex-wife's not dead. But I wish she was dead. but we're divorced, totally divorced. I'm like, oh. And he's like, but I said that because I wish she was dead, but she's not really dead.
Okay.
Right?
So he's twisting
right
things.
So, but I was like, but he told me the truth, right? He confessed before I found out, so I almost bought him a pass because like I didn't find out he lied, you know. And so I'm like, okay. And he's like, but that doesn't change how I feel about you, or anything, and whatever. So yeah, we go on vacation with his family. His cousin takes me out on the jet ski. She says, his mom really likes you. I'm like, I know. And it's so weird. Like, I don't understand. He was so nervous to come on this trip, and I don't understand why. It would have been a great opportunity to say, well, it's probably because he's still married. But no one said anything. And even when I drove past his house and saw his four-wheeler in front of their quote-unquote old house that he told me he didn't live at anymore, and I drove to his mom's house, and I knocked on the door, and his mom answers the door, and I said, do you know where he went? And she was like, oh yeah, he was just here, but he just left. I'm like, hey, do you know whose house that is down the street? No, I have no idea. Which his mom lied for him. Which I don't understand. I don't understand why. Like, they kept this whole fantasy going. Like, he even had his family convinced to lie for him. I mean, it's sick. It's sick. And it twisted my head so bad that for the rest of my life, I have had a really hard time trusting men. Because, I mean, and the worst part is, I don't think he has any clue how much he messed me up. And I was 23.
You shouldn't generally say that about men in general. It's just him. He did that to you, and that was his thing.
But it's happened to me multiple times.
Okay.
Right?
It makes sense on who you attract.
Well, right. So do I attract men who lie to me constantly? Like, how can I trust the men that end up being in my life if I can't trust myself to pick the right ones? I mean, I picked my ex-husband, and we were married for 10 years together for 11 because I did my research, and knowing who he was, he didn't have the capacity to lie.
Yeah, but still, that didn't work out in other ways.
Right. But I still ended up getting burned, because I trusted people, So, anyway.
Yeah, see, my cousin goes about it differently because he's friends with them first, and he's friends with them a long time. I mean, years before he even gets into a dating aspect.
Yeah.
So he thoroughly knows who they are. But here, let me ask you this. Now, this is a twist on gaslighting, and this might be a stretch. It might not, but in a sense, this is gaslighting. And before I ask you this. I'm going to ask you this question. You played that game where you had to whisper a sentence in somebody's ear, and then they pass it along.
Telephone, right.
Yeah. And then the last person, it's never the exact phrase of when it was started.
Yeah.
So, gaslighting, it's almost like if I told one of your friends something, and your friend told you something else, in a sense, wouldn't that be gaslighting because it's changed a little bit because it's almost like we're playing telephone?
So, no, I don't think it's gaslighting. But let me tell you something that happened with him, okay? So he was telling me one thing, and he was telling his wife something totally different. I was driving by the house, and I noticed that his four-wheeler was gone. And I said, well, screw this. I'm going to find out who lives here. He told me before that it was like this African-American family that had bought the house, that moved in. Because I was like, well, how come there are Christmas lights outside your house?
Is that same guy?
It's the same guy.
Oh,
yeah, same guy. Same guy. So because we dated for 2 years. 2 years. And nothing ever quite made sense. There was something that didn't jive, but I was too scared and insecure to question, because at the end of the day, I didn't want to know the answer. I didn't want to know because I didn't want to be alone. And he was what I thought I had wanted, somebody that was educated and et cetera, et cetera. So, saw the four-wheeler had left, and so I pull up and I walk up to the door, and she's on the phone and she's crying. And she's like, you told me you wouldn't leave tonight. You told me you would stay. I don't understand. I thought we were going to work things out. I don't understand. Please come back. Please come back. So I knock on the door, and hold on, somebody's here.
Oh, so you heard that through the door.
Yes, I did.
Jeez.
Answer the door. Can I help you? Yeah, hi. I'm Beth. Are you Jody? She's like, yeah. I'm like, Nate's wife? Yeah. I'm like, we need to talk. So we got into a room together, and I told her everything. Told her how we met, told her, what, like the fact that I had gone on vacation with his family. She and I drove to his mother's house and confronted her mother. And she's like, did you know about her?
That same day?
That same day.
Jeez.
And she's like, and she's like, well, it's none of my business. I stay out of his personal life because, it's not my business. He can do whatever he wants because, it's not my problem. I'm like, so you're letting him ruin people's lives because what?
Well, she's a part of the problem.
I know, she's a part of the problem. Don't lie for people who lie. So anyway, we go back. Now at this point, he had proposed to me. We were engaged. He took me down to Conneaut Lake, told me I was the love of his life, gave me a ring, told me that that he wanted to marry me, all this stuff. And so I told her, I'm like, look, we're engaged. And I showed her my ring, and she's like, hold on a second. And I'm thinking she's going to go get a gun or something and shoot me. She goes into the room, she comes back out and pulls out a box and a ring box, opens it up, and it's the same damn ring. He bought me the same ring that he bought for his wife.
Wow.
He was a piece of shit. So anyway.
So that was her wedding ring that she didn't wear?
Yeah, they were separated. I mean, they were working things out, but they were high school sweethearts. They were married. And I don't know what his problem was. I honestly don't know. Because still to this day, I don't understand men like that. I don't understand why he did those things. Because it wasn't just me and her. There was another woman that he was seeing on top of it. It messed with my head. So so my point was, I said, call him on the phone. Get him here. Have him take responsibility for the things that he said. And we're all going to the three of us are all going to sit down and we're going to talk about this. Well, he was a coward and he wouldn't do it. Because he didn't want to get called out on his lies. He wouldn't do it. He would not sit down. So he would call her phone and he would talk to her. He would call my phone and talk to me. And she's like, you need to come here. You need to come here and you need to talk to both of us. He wouldn't do it.
Yeah, he didn't want to be ganged up on.
No.
Yeah.
Ganged up on? He didn't want to be fucking caught is what he didn't want to be.
Right.
Yeah. He didn't want to be caught in his bullshit. And so, yeah. And even after that, he kept lying to me. Mm-hmm. He kept lying to me and telling me like, oh, it's over, sending me pictures of papers from a lawyer, and stuff. Well, honestly, the only reason why he got fucking divorced is because she didn't want to put up with his shit anymore. You know what she told me? She's like, you're not the only one. She's like, I found letters from someone named Anne, someone named Joanne, somebody named so-and-so. And she's like, you're in a long line of people that he's been messing with. She's like, you're not special. I mean, and then on top of it, when I tried to break it off, he stalked me. I was working at a library in Pennsylvania, and I went with my boss over to Pizza Joe's, which was next door, for lunch. And the cashier is like, do you guys know of a white truck? And I'm like, yeah, why? And she's like, because there's this guy that keeps coming and parking in our parking lot and sitting for hours and staring at the library. And to this day, I don't understand why, because he had multiple women on the side. Like,
I don't know.
leave me alone. Like, if you have all these other women, leave me alone. Like, I don't understand. But no, he was a pro at gaslighting, love bombing. He sent me flowers all the time, bought me things, like wanted to take me places. We had all kinds of experience. Like, intimacy was amazing, like the most amazing I had ever had. I'd only had one other person aside, two other people that on the other side of that, but he was very adventurous, and it just, so, yeah.
But how do you get past that? See, that's the thing. It's like all of that disappointment. It's, I don't know. If I were in your shoes, I don't know how I would be able to get past that.
I didn't date for a long time after I broke up with him. I was single for a year or two, and I started going to church and developing my friendships and focusing on God and praying. And honestly, I back then in my early 20s, I had assumed that my relationship with him and the pain that I experienced was a punishment for what I had done to my ex-boyfriend, my ex-fiance. I don't believe that anymore. I don't feel like anybody deserves to be treated that way. But no, so I didn't date for a really long time. And once I felt like I knew myself, and I felt confident in myself, and I felt like I could trust myself, and I was very devout in the church, and I felt like I had a good support system, I started dating again. And that's when I met Tyler. But I can't say I trusted him 100% either. But the one thing I will say is that the couple of things that showed me that he was different was, one, I met his family super early. And his mother told me that I was the first girl he had ever brought home. I was his first girlfriend, his first real girlfriend.
Yeah. That
was somebody that I could trust. He wasn't a womanizer. He wasn't a liar. He was just very insecure and very anxious, had social anxiety, whatever. But we had a lot in common, and I enjoyed spending time with him. He was safe. And after doing some research and installing some spyware on his computer, I realized that he was trustworthy, And it wasn't until I did those things that I felt like I could believe him,
Yeah. I don't know, that's a little excessive, but
I needed the reassurance to be able to marry someone.
So you didn't have that kind of conversation? You just went ahead?
What am I going to ask someone, like, and believe what they tell me? I mean,
you can, a lot of times you can see by their expression or their reaction.
But I went for a year dating with someone not knowing they were married.
Well, you probably didn't even know the signs.
No. But
now you do.
But I didn't. I couldn't trust my own intuition. I couldn't trust. That's what gaslighting does to you. Gaslighting makes you question your own version of reality. It makes you question the things you feel, the things you think, the things you experience. And so no, until you have concrete proof that this person is trustworthy, it's very difficult, for someone who's been through that kind of trauma.
Yeah. I guess that makes sense.
The thing is, you knew that she was married, the girl that you were dating.
I put things in place, so I wasn't hurt, but still, in the end, she went back to him.
Well, yeah, but that's a little bit...
And she just used me.
But that's a little bit different, than someone... unless she was still seeing him when you were together,
No, she wasn't.
Yeah.
Because we spent almost every day together.
Yeah. So did we.
So.
That's what he kept telling me. I spent every day with you. I spent all this time with you. It was only you. How could you think that I felt any different when I'm spending all this time with you and I took you on vacation with my family? How dare you think that I could ever be with anyone else? And he had multiple people on the side, You know?
I don't know. How do you have time for that? Really?
If you're a fuckboy, you find the time. If that's all you're interested in, then you find the time.
I don't know. Yeah, I can't understand that.
I still don't understand.
You just waste all that time.
I still don't understand it. And the only thing I can think is that it was ego. And my friend the giant told me that men like that are a collector. Men like that like to collect women. They're not actual people. They're only there to feed your ego and to make you feel better about yourself. That they don't serve any other purpose. And they'll tell you anything that you want to hear in order to get that.
Well, because there's something missing in their life or something that happened in their past.
Mm-hmm. And knowing his mother, I could guess.
This lady also covers 4 steps that she's describing in her book. Let's listen in.
Some of your red flags here, the idealization stage.
Mm-hmm. So when you get into an abusive relationship, it's very unlikely that the abuse starts straight away. So there's actually a pattern that abusers follow. It's called the narcissistic abuse cycle.
Now, narcissistic happens when someone has an exaggerated or overwhelming, inflated sense of their own importance. They may also try to manipulate you into feeling guilty or believing that you're the one being unreasonable and controlling. Mm-hmm. Now, I looked up narcissistic, and it's oversimplifying things, ridiculing, and planting the seed of doubt, which narcissistic people do. So some of the signs: unreasonable expectations, disregard for other people, it's everyone else's fault, they fear abandonment, and sometimes narcissistic people manipulate or monopolize on conversations. I read to you gaslighting and narcissistic behavior from what I found on the internet. Now, when you're dating these people, they're not a dick right away, and this lady explains it.
So the first stage is the idolization stage. That's when they love bomb you, they put you on a pedestal, you feel amazing. You essentially fall in love very quickly, you're lured into a false sense of security.
I didn't even know what love bombing was until recently. Love bombing apparently is when you're so over the top. They say, oh, you're the greatest, oh, you're so beautiful, so on and so forth. So love bombing is only step 1. Let's listen to what else she has to say.
Once they have you, that then moves on to the devalue stage, which is where the belittling, the gaslighting, the emotional, the verbal, and sometimes the physical abuse will start to happen.
Okay, so this is stage 2.
They chip away at yourself, you become a shell of your former self. Then the third stage is the discard stage. Once they've done with you, they might have found somebody else to manipulate. They then leave you, feeling very upset, being very confused. And the last stage is the hoover stage. Doesn't always happen, but this is when the abuser comes back for more. They hoover you, they see if they can still manipulate you, and essentially they do that to stop you from moving on.
Okay, so at first they love bomb you and say, I'm like, oh my god, I met this girl and she loves me so much. And they start to suck you in. Then they start treating you poorly. They start to make you feel bad. They call you a liar. Sometimes it can be just subtle, sometimes not. Then they go, I'm done with you, and they run off with some other woman or some other man. And then after that, they're not done with you. I'm gonna hoover this person back in. And this is how this lady describes it. I've had friends that get sucked into some of these things because they're very insecure. So, you've experienced all of those? Or part of those?
Yeah, I mean, but so I will say one of the things that is difficult to distinguish between love bombing is when someone tells you, they send you songs and they tell you that you're beautiful and they tell you that they've never met anyone like you, you know, and you're special and all of this stuff, you know.
But it is true.
How do you know? How do you know that it's true and not love bombing?
Well, at least from my perspective and knowing you, it is true.
But that's my point, is that it is very difficult to distinguish between someone being genuine and someone love bombing you. Because the honeymoon phase of a relationship, those are things that are thrown across to each other. And I will say, so look, I've done a lot of research into narcissism because I have felt that I might have narcissistic tendencies. But the thing that I keep coming across is that if you question whether or not you're a narcissist, more than likely you're not. Because narcissists don't care. They just are. But I genuinely want to be a good person. I don't want to hurt anyone.
Right. I think you use it as a defense mechanism. It's not necessarily you're narcissistic.
Well, no, and I don't think that I'm better than anyone else. I know my flaws. I know my insecurities. I don't think that I have, delusions of grandeur or whatever. Love bombing, it's difficult because here's the thing, and I know that I do this. When you're in the heat of the moment, in the passion of the moment, sometimes you say things to someone because that is exactly how you feel. Yeah. You're excited about the future. You want to promise the person the moon and the stars, and so you say things without really thinking. You're just more of like, I'm so in love, and I just want everything, It's not intentional, but I do know that I've hurt people that way. But I've also been hurt that way because I've had it done to me too. I had another person who was married tell me they wanted to marry me, tell me that I was the love of their life, tell me that there was no one like me, and that, they told me everything I wanted to hear, and I believed all of it. I wanted it so badly.
Then you start to run from it because of what happened to you in the past.
Well, yeah, how can you trust it? You have somebody propose to you over the lakeside with a sunset and tell you that you're the love of their life,
But then you might run from the guy who truly feels that.
Well, right, but how do you distinguish the difference? How do you know the difference? That is probably the thing that I've struggled with most in my life. Someone telling you that you're the one, you're the only one they've ever loved, and they're seeing other people. What is that? So do you believe what they tell you, or do you believe what they are doing?
I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily not trust somebody right off the bat, though, until they show me that you can't be trusted.
Right. So if you find a reason not to trust someone, if somebody's dishonest with you about anything, that gives you a seed of doubt to not trust them about anything.
Yeah.
Even if it's minor, then that puts a seed of doubt in your mind, and you distrust everything they say.
Yeah. That could be used against you, though. It's not necessarily good to nitpick the little things. It's just the bigger things are the more important things. Like, is he cheating? Is he married?
But the thing is that the things that the lies tend out to be small at first, right? And then you realize that the person's just a liar and they lie about everything. But it's not a good way to live. It's not a good way to live. The thing that has changed my life over this past year is the truth will out, right? The truth will out. It's a Shakespeare quote. The truth will out. And it basically means that in the end, the truth will be discovered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in living in the moment and enjoying the moment is really the most important thing. And, if someone is lying to you about something, you'll find out eventually. And in the meantime, do you enjoy the time that you're spending with the person? Or do you spend your entire time with the person obsessing about what they might be being dishonest about? It's not a good way to live. But yeah, as in terms of narcissism and love bombing and gaslighting, yeah, I've experienced it, and I've worried that it's been me. I've worried that I've been that person, and I've done a lot of work to try to discover that about myself and determine whether or not that's who I am, because it's not who I want to be. I want to be someone, like if someone were to describe me to another person, what I would like them to say is that she is kind, and she's empathetic, and she's caring, and she's sensitive, and and she loves deeply. Those are the things that I want people to say about me.
How do you know they're not love bombing you?
Who?
The people that are saying those things.
No, I'm not talking about them saying them to me. I'm talking about them saying them to other people.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'd like for people to say about me. not to me. I mean,
Well, they'd have to say it to you in order for you to hear it.
no, not necessarily. You know, people, people will tell you what other people say about you, you know, and it'll either be positive or negative, you know, and it makes you question what version of what is the version of the truth. You know, do they really see you as this beautiful, unique, wonderful person that they couldn't live without, or a liar and a cheater and an asshole? You know, which is the true version? What is the truth? You know?
Right.
Because if someone is saying those things about you behind your back, are they love bombing you? Because the things that they're saying to you to your face are different than the things that they're saying to you to other people about you behind your back.
Or is that, in a sense, gaslighting? It's like playing telephone and then all of a sudden, did you say this? I didn't.
Well, no, I wouldn't even say it's telephone. It's just, it's two different versions of the truth. You know, I mean, I would kind of consider it love bombing if someone tells you that they're the love of your life, but then tell someone else that you're a piece of shit. That's love bombing. Love bombing is telling someone that they're the earth, the moon, and the sky, but in reality, they don't really think that about you. They really think you're scum. You know, I mean, that's love bombing. I mean, not that I thought that the married guy thought I was scum. I was just in a long line of people that he was seeing. You know, I don't know his true opinion of me, and I could give a shit anymore.
Yeah, I've come across a lot of people that are like that.
I think at the end of the day, the thing that makes me survive is knowing who I am. I know who I am. I know how I feel, and I know me. And I'm a good person. I have a good heart. I care deeply, and I'm empathetic, and that's who I am, you know. And so it doesn't matter what people say about me, because at the end of the day, I know who I am, and I won't let their opinion of me touch me, you know. And they can either choose to be in my life or not.
Right. I mean, that's usually what I say about myself, because I know the truth about myself.
Right.
And nobody can tell me wrong.
Exactly.
It's like somebody can tell me that I'm the most gorgeous thing in the world, and I know I'm just average.
Well, okay.
No, really.
But here's the thing. You have to understand. So I tell you you're beautiful all the time, right? Have I ever told you otherwise?
No.
No. Because I do look at you that way. I'm not love bombing you. I genuinely think you're beautiful.
Yeah, but that's not the majority of people or my experience.
Right. But so, okay. So according to the example about someone who love bombs, and they tell you you're beautiful, and then they start to devalue you. Did I ever devalue? Did I ever take back what I said? No, there were certain things that I wasn't happy about. I mean, there were certain things that I wasn't happy about, and I told you what those things were. But I never changed my mind. I never told you were ugly. I never told you you were... No. I mean, so... But yes, there is a honeymoon phase of a relationship where two people seem to be perfect. You know, and as the relationship progresses, more and more issues crop up. And it's how the couple decides to deal with those issues that determines the success of the relationship. It doesn't mean that someone is manipulative or narcissist. It means that they're being realistic and they see the problems in the relationship and they want to address them. And the success of the relationship depends on how that couple chooses to deal with it. Mm-hmm. I did not deal with the relationship in a very healthy way. I mean, we tried. You know, we tried to. You know, we went to therapy, we went to counseling.
That's just not enough time. Like an hour?
No. And I don't think either of us had the skills to be able to work through some of the things that we were dealing with. And especially because both of us have experienced trauma. But I've had a lot of time to work through some of my issues, and, you know, so it's different.
Yeah, it's like I always imagine, you know, the honeymoon extending to forever.
It doesn't.
But why... There's no reason why not to continue to kiss somebody or...
No, that can stay. But the idealized version of the person, people are flawed. People are imperfect. People lie. People, can be lazy. People are
Yeah, but
imperfect.
People can also be sympathetic and
Yes.
pick each other up
Well,
and
right,
be
exactly.
support.
But what I'm saying is the honeymoon stage in terms of this idealized version of the person cannot last because people are imperfect. It's just it's how the couple chooses to deal with it. So like I say, like one of the things that I know that I do that isn't helpful in a relationship is that when I'm hurt, I tend to distance myself. I don't want to be physically intimate. I don't want to be physically affectionate because I'm angry and I'm hurt. And unless the other person says I'm sorry or we have a conversation and we make up, the physical affection can't happen. But that causes a breakdown in the relationship.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the other person has to take responsibility too and say they're sorry or at least communicate or talk things out. And so it's got to be both. And relationships are hard. They are hard. I mean, they don't have to be. They don't, but they're never going to be perfect. You're never going to have a relationship that is void of conflict, that doesn't exist.
But then you wouldn't appreciate the good things if
Right.
there were...
If there was no conflict.
Right.
Exactly. Look, I was in a relationship where there was no conflict. Tyler and I never fought about anything. I mean, we had conversations and we would have discussions, but it always ended up the same way. I'm sorry I'm not good enough for you. End of discussion. He would not change his behavior. He would not do anything differently. It was either accept me or don't.
He probably didn't know any different.
No. I mean...
Or had the tools.
No. And so I just continued to feel lonelier and lonelier and more hurt, and neither one of us was getting what we needed, and we didn't communicate. And so there was no conflict, there was no yelling, there was no fighting, there was no conversation, and it ended. Because neither one of us were getting what we needed because we couldn't communicate. And I think that is probably one of the hardest things in relationships.
Yeah, well... Yeah, I guess to get on the same page and communicate in a way where you each understand each other.
Right.
So, yeah. Have you ever heard of her book?
No. What is it called?
The book is called Not the One, A Woman's Guide to Identifying Red Flags. But see, I have a problem because she focused in on women, which she could have focused in on both because it can hack me either way.
It's both sexes for sure. I mean, my question for you, is do you identify with this in terms of our relationship? I mean, because if you think you're being hoovered or manipulated or gaslighted or whatever, I think that's something that needs to be out in the open,
I don't know. There was little bits and pieces of everything in there.
Mm-hmm.
Because the only reason why I looked up all of these words is because you called me every single one of these words at one point.
Well, I called you a narcissist for sure.
Yeah, and I was trying to figure out, okay, so what's narcissistic about me? And I had to think over and over again. It's like, okay, so I gave this and I gave that and I gave myself. And I didn't care about myself. I cared more about you, and I proved it by doing, and I listed a ton of things.
Well, no, my.
So I didn't understand.
No, my reasoning for saying the narcissistic comic was just the over exaggeration of certain things that you had said that I didn't believe.
Just an over exaggerating.
Over exaggeration of accomplishments was always something that I had associated with narcissism, and then the love bombing was, like. And it's and this is why I talk about it, is because it's very hard to distinguish between someone telling you that you're the most amazing person on earth and sending you songs about how you're the love of their life, but in the meantime talking about you behind your back, and saying really nasty things. And so I just associated that with love bombing. And then gaslighting is basically invalidating your feelings, basically saying that, well, that's not the reality. How you feel is not right. And this is why you shouldn't feel that way. making you question your own reality. Those were things that I felt that you had done. But I don't know. I mean, like I said, the things that I've learned over the past year and the work that I've done through therapy and through some of the books that I've read and understanding, living in the moment and living without judgment. And that's really hard for me, not judging someone, not...
It's almost like freeing yourself of all the negativity and just having fun.
Just being. None of it matters. I mean, it's, you choose to be with me or you don't. You love me or you don't. And whatever it is, I accept it. I don't have any other way of being. I don't
know, because I see on your side, it's so hard to trust.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I would be able to get past that if I were in your shoes.
Look, I don't have anything to lose. I don't have anything to lose. I've lost everything that I thought I had, and
you didn't lose me.
I did for a period of time.
No, I was still there.
But you were with other people. I mean, you told me that.
Not really.
You told me that. But you told me that, though. And you can't tell me, like, I saw you on Tinder, so...
That's because you told me to move on when I couldn't.
But you did it anyway. Like, and I don't have any judgment. I did the same thing.
What else was I supposed to do? You weren't there.
I don't know.
And I still thought about
everybody in my life has told me I should just be alone. All of my friends have told me, you should just learn to be alone. You can't really be in a relationship until you know what it's like being alone. And this coming from people that have never been alone. And it sucks. So I don't have any judgment because I did the same thing. I looked to see what else was out there and came up with Bupkis. I mean, I made a really good friend in the meantime, but not someone that I would want to spend the rest of my life with, but I just think that, I don't know, I talk too much.
No, that's okay. No, we all have issues, but yeah, it's just rare to come across somebody that's truly on the same page as you are.
Yeah.
But it is possible.
Mhm. Yeah. No, it is.
I never thought it would be.
No. No, and I've had lots of discussions about the universe and karma and...
You think there's an alien boy out there for you?
No, I think...
I know, I'm just playing.
But I do think that, I think you have that commonality and you have the compatibility, but I do think that there's always work involved. I don't believe that anything is easy. But I have had really... I've been told in a very brief relationship that I had, that, well, relationships are hard. I'm like, not this hard. I'm like, you shouldn't have to try this hard. I said, and I don't owe you anything. Like, well, you said you cared. I do care. I do care.
That's probably why you're working with him, but he's not doing the same
but
for you.
You're not doing the work.
Right.
You're just expecting everything from the other person and not willing to do any of the work on your own. And you have to do the work. You have to do the work. You can't expect your partner to do 100% of the work and you do nothing. And then just expect things to be different.
Yeah, it's like you have to reciprocate the love.
Right. And I said, why do you think that I should have to deal with your behavior?
You should accept me for who I am.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
That's what they would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should accept me for who I am. And I look, screenshot of therapy appointment. I'm like, one therapy appointment does not a changed man make. Okay?
Yeah.
Show me changed behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll believe you. well, you don't believe anything I say anyway.
So that's just an excuse or a cop-out.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I said, I'm willing to sit here and wait to see if there's any changes to be made. And if you don't make them, then...
That's not unreasonable.
Right. Oh, no. I was an evil,
Because they don't want to move or change.
No, they don't. They want you.
And they're making excuses.
You are supposed to accept me for exactly who I am. I don't have to change anything. You went on a few dates with me, and you told me that you cared, and so therefore you owe me the rest of your effing life. And like that's just not how it works. No. It's not how it works. You need to grow up and like accept responsibility for your own behavior. And that's one of the things that I will say. When I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong. And I'm not a perfect person. I've made mistakes. But I do expect my partner to admit that they've made mistakes too. And if you do something that hurts the other person, just acknowledge it. I mean, it's not going to take away anything from yourself, but, it's only going to help things, It's never all one person.
Nope. It always takes two.
It does take two, both for good and bad, And
I always look at us, and we've had more good times than anything else.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would say for the majority of our relationship, we had wonderful times, and those were the times that I missed, and I don't honestly, I can't even pinpoint exactly what happened. I mean, I knew the things that I wasn't happy about, but were they bad enough for me to walk away? I mean, at the time, I thought, yeah, I thought for sure. I thought I was justified, in how I felt, and I felt justified in leaving because, obviously you didn't like me anyway because you're telling everybody I was a bitch, even my own family, and so I was like, well, if you don't like me...
That wasn't really the case.
That's what
I was trying to understand, what am I doing wrong?
That's not what I was told, so, I thought, well, if you don't like me, then I'll leave. If you'd rather spend your time talking to these other women, fine. Have all the time you want. When I was angry, I was very angry.
So how do you know that's not going to happen again?
Honestly, I don't care. I don't have any proof. I don't have any proof that you're not talking to hundreds of people behind my back. But at the same time, I mean, and I've said this multiple times before, when I walked in the door and I saw my pictures and my artwork on the walls and all my books are still here and everything, like I knew you loved me. And I know myself. And I know I'm the right person for you.
How do you know?
I just do. I do. All the times that we spent together, all the fun we had together, and I'm not the same person. I mean, I am the same person, but I've let go of a lot of things. There's no point. There's no point in being jealous. You're either going to want to be with me or you're not. That's really what it comes down to. I was so threatened by all these other women, even if they were butt ugly. I was still threatened for some reason, but that's because I had no self-confidence. And I've developed self-confidence over this past year. I mean, not that I think I'm the most attractive thing on earth, don't get me wrong, but I know what I have. I know who I am, and I know my worth. So, I mean, if you chose to be with somebody else, okay, but it'd be your loss.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. No.
Yeah, I said that to everybody else. It's like, well, it's your loss.
Right. It is their loss. So we're two very lucky people. Very lucky people to have found each other. I mean, and we keep coming back to each other.
Yeah. What?
You sound skeptical in that moment.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I just feel I was always here for you, or just waiting. You were the one that had the choice to come back or not.
Did you not date other people?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't excuse the fact that I thought of you all the time.
Well, I thought of you too, but but I just assumed that you were with other people, which I was correct in assuming. It didn't make me feel special, didn't make me feel unique.
For me, I wasn't with them. I was still with you and attached to you and couldn't get rid of it. So I couldn't move on. I wasn't really with them.
Yeah,
in a sense.
But I didn't know that, and I'm sure they didn't know that.
Oh, they they knew that after a while, and they were pissed. Yep. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing.
You're just trying not to be lonely.
No, I mean, I don't care if I'm lonely or not. I don't really need people.
Then why did you date other people then?
To find somebody like you. I was always looking for that, the one, and nobody had it. They had bits and pieces of it, but not all of it. Yeah. And then I kept on coming back to, why should I have to settle?
Well, no, and because of my self-esteem, I always thought you were settling for me. I always felt that you were looking for something else while we were together. You know, I mean, I felt like they felt. You know, I didn't feel like I was special. I didn't feel like I was the one.
Even though I told you? Or did you feel that I was love bombing you?
Love bombing. Yeah. You know?
So I was just like all the other guys.
How would I know how would I have any proof that it was different?
I don't know, because I did what I said and I said what I did.
But there were also things you were dishonest about, so I didn't trust you at all. Even if they were little things that you felt that were inconsequential, they mattered to me. You know, because any hint of dishonesty meant you were a dishonest person. You know, but I mean, to me now, like, I just don't care anymore. I don't care anymore. Those things are in the past, and I trust myself, and I trust, like, that whatever is meant to be will be. You know?
It's kind of like that song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know? So, I mean, if you want to be with me, I'm here.
I always did, but
well,
I never know.
I'm not going anywhere. I have nothing else. You know? I mean, I'm looking forward to spending time with you. I like talking with you. I like spending all of our time together. You know? I don't, you know, and we'll work through any issues that we have, you know. And honestly, I do think the universe is kind of funny, because in a way, it's showing you how I felt for a really long time, you know, and it doesn't feel good, and we're just gonna have to work through things in reverse, you know, which is okay, you know. I get to be you for a change, you know.
So I can kiss other people? Even though I don't want to.
On the cheek? Sure. You kiss as many women on the cheek as you want to.
No, I still feel that's intimate. Should be.
It's very
shared as a
very
couple.
European.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, because even though this was uncomfortable for me, my grandfather used to kiss me on the lips.
My grandfather kissed me on the lips too.
That was still uncomfortable. Well, that's like a man and a woman, but a man and the man back then, you know.
I don't know. My grandmother used to yell at him for it. Kenneth, you know she doesn't like that. But he would do it anyway. He didn't find anything wrong with it. And honestly, I didn't mind. I mean,
and even my mom did that when I was little, and she did that when I was sleeping.
Yeah.
And she pinched my cheeks, and they hurt like hell.
Well, it's all it's all, you know. I don't, you know. I am affectionate with my friends. I hug my friends. You know, I mean, kissing on the cheek is a kind of a different thing, but I don't consider it to be intimate or romantic. You know, but it's all about compromise. You know, it's all about compromise and being there for one another. You know.
Yeah, it's almost like that porn girl. Mm-hmm. It's like, for me, if I'm intimate or sexual with somebody, that means that we should be in a relationship. But for her, that's a totally different story. That's just a physical thing that she needs to be gratified.
Well, yeah, and I would say, I mean, there's always a conversation that needs to be had. You cannot just assume that. because I can tell you that that's one way of having assumptions that will get you burned.
Well, that's how I connect with, my partner. I mean, I'm not going to do that with everybody else.
You're unique in that regard. Men will fuck anything. I'm not saying this. I've learned differently over the past year or so. I've been told that that's not accurate, but for most men, yeah, it would be indiscriminate, and they can just screw whatever they want, and emotions are not involved at all. And women are the ones that tend to be assuming about, oh, well, we've been intimate, so now we're in a relationship. Men don't think like that. A lot of men don't.
No, because
think...
I've seen the opposite. Because I've seen a lot of women just want to fuck, and that's it.
And I know men that are like that. So you have to have a conversation with your partner on whether, did you ask them if you were exclusive? Because you cannot assume that that's the case. I mean, you have to have that conversation. And if you want to be physical with someone and you don't have that conversation, you could get really hurt if they turn out to be like being with other people and you didn't know. And it could be very unsafe too.
Yeah, exactly.
So...
yeah, it's like I don't want any diseases.
No, God no.
And I can have a lot of fun with just one person.
Yeah.
It's like, if you jump from partner to partner, how do you get to know their likes and their
Some men don't give a shit about that.
And their...
Some men don't care.
But that gets me off.
Well, that's how you're different. I mean, I'm the same way. I like to have an emotional connection with someone before we're physically intimate. I mean, for me, I can develop an intimate connection with someone very quickly.
Yeah, because I can't do it unless we're connected.
Yeah, right, same thing. But I will say that the connection can easily die, too, once you get to know somebody. Yeah, I don't know.
I want to bring up something that you said previously in a conversation about me. Okay, you mentioned it doesn't matter anymore. If you keep bringing it up, it does matter. Just because you don't verbalize and want to talk about the issue that bother you anymore doesn't make it any better. You mentioned you don't like the fact that I exaggerate what I do. I went above and beyond showing you screenshots of my laptop, texts from my boss on my phone, and you still think I exaggerate what I do. You're more than welcome to look at my phone. Ask my friends, or whatever you need to make yourself feel comfortable. I'm not Nate, who lied to you while you dated him when he was still married. I'm not Rob, who manipulated you while you dated him while he was still married. Until you figure out that I am not your past abusive relationships, you cannot be in a healthy relationship. Regardless, if I give you my phone or you join me at work and show you what I do, I don't see you being convinced that your fear of lying and jealousy will take over and get in the way of any relationship you get into. Don't assume your current relationship did something because your past experience tells you all men are liars and cheaters. I'm not one of them. I did prove I'm a good person over and over again. I proved I wouldn't hurt you. Everything isn't black and white. If you're projecting, this is a perfect example of you and your assumptions are getting in your own way to have something healthy. This is why we are not together, and I hope you treat the next relationship better than you treated me.
I don't know. I'm still learning. I'm 41 years old and I'm still learning. But I do feel more confident in myself than I ever have in my life. I gotta pee.
Yay, let's all pee.
Let's all pee. Take a break.
All right, so I'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.